Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever and wherever you are, my friends. It's Alex, and I'm here to do another live stream, the first one of 2025. Yeah, yay! It's been a year since I've been working on this project for Terrafarmers through Gdevelop, and I thought today I'd open the door so I could help. Hey, what's going on, Riley? Hey, what's going on, Parasol? Thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to get switched over here to the Gdevelop canvas, and we're going to get today's session started. We're going to start out with some, just helping anybody who needs some help. So let me go ahead and pass through the live. Oh, it's already moved over there. Huh. All right, never mind. So what I wanted to do is start off with something that I think is immensely important to know in Gdevelop. And to demonstrate this, I'm going to create a new project real quick. So we're going to go ahead and create a new one. I'll be doing it from scratch here, going to the default desktop mobile. We're not going to change anything here. I'll optimize it for pixel art. And so I'm going to start working on a platforming game here, just to kind of demonstrate some of the intentions I have. So, one of the really important things as you get involved in Gdevelop is the fact that objects inside of Gdevelop are something that we call self-governing objects. And for new people, it can really be a struggle to understand. So I'm going to try to break this down as simply as possible. So self-governance means that each independent object that you add to the game scene becomes an instance of an object, okay? So if I go into a new object here, and we're going to create a sprite character. We're going to say that this is our game character. So we're going to call this one player. So this will be my object player. And then for now, we're going to demonstrate this with just a blank canvas character. We'll just create like a blue texture, okay? And we'll also name this sprite player. So in Gdevelop, every time you add a behavior or a variable, it gets copied to this object, right? But there's ever only one parent object. There's and we never really target this object ever again. Not in reality. Like, we do target it in code, and that's the way it looks, but we're not targeting this object anymore. We're targeting a unique one that's been built onto the game scene. So if I went to variables and added, so we're going to call this state control. And so this is kind of the foundation of what a finite state machine is. We're giving an object a state mechanic. And imagine that this is actually an enemy for a minute, right? So for each enemy we have on the game canvas, each of them can have their own variable in here, if that makes sense. So if I change state to a text, and we're going to call this one, like, for a player, it might be idle, right? But for an enemy, it might be patrol. So this is a conditional state that we're going to use to manage our objects. So that way, whenever we want something to happen, we can trigger it to happen. Like, it's a guaranteed sort of thing. So let me explain this. We're going to be using a variable. In this case, it's a text variable, a string, to hold a title. And as that title changes, it will allow us to access different parts of our code. And that way we can restrict enemies or players from doing things that we don't want them to do until we want to make them do it, right? So in this case, we're going to call this one on the player, it's idle. And just for simplicity, I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to call this one enemy. And we're going to go into the enemy object. And I'm going to change its sprite real fast. So edit with Piskel. We're going to create a new one. And we're going to make this one, we're going to make this one red, right? Okay, so we have a player object now and some enemies. Now, if I took the player object and added it to the game scene, this is now an instance of an object. And see, we can see that here. And in Gdevelop, instances are self-governing. So that means if I added another character, and in fact, we're going to use the enemy as the ideal character here. So if we edit this base character, go to its variables, and now we're going to call this patrol. Okay, so this enemy is going to patrol left and right until it sees my player. So we're going to use patrol. So this enemy's in patrol, and so is this one. because that was the state that we added it from. So it goes in with a base condition. These are the base conditions. We take an object's base conditions, we add it to the game scene, and it becomes an instance of an object. Well, that now allows us to do things like, let's change this to chase. Now, this one is patrol, and this one is chase. So self-governance means that they control their own variables independently. And this can be really confusing in Gdevelop, because at times you'll be trying to target one or all of them. And depending on how you write it, Gdevelop automatically applies whatever your logic is to all of the instances, unless you specify otherwise. So we're going to be using a variable that says when in patrol, do these actions. So it's looking for them for them in it that have patrol to be true. And then if this is true, if this equals patrol, we're going to activate. So let's look at that on a real level. Let's get rid of this one enemy. We're going to put one enemy up here. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have the enemy go all the way to the left and then go all the way to the right. And there's a bunch of ways that we can do this. A really simple way is creating a trigger box. And we're going to kind of be doing 2 steps of that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new sprite, and we're going to call this the trigger box, right? And for my own sanity, we're just going to add 2 colors. One of them we'll do like yellow, and then the other one will do green. And each of these can be their own. So this is left, or like, let's say this is turn right, and then the other one's going to be turn left. Turn left. I'm just trying to keep it consistent. We're going to add this one. We'll make it like green, maybe. Doesn't really matter here, right? So now that we've added the trigger objects, we're going to be checking if our object is in collision with it. And then we're going to turn it around. And we're going to keep patrolling the enemy. Every time it touches it, it's going to turn around and move the other way. So we need to make sure we kind of set this up correctly. So we need to go into our behavior, and we're going to add a basic level of behavior. We're going to add the, in this case, like we would be normally doing platformer, but I'm actually going to use top-down movement for this example because I don't want to add gravity and have to add all the boxes, but it is the same. So I'm just turning off the default controls because even though it's an enemy, we still need to give it the control movement. So I'm going to give it the top-down movement, and then it's going to allow me to like control it using script programmatically. So I'm going to hit apply here. And then looking at the trigger, we have an animation of 0 and an animation of 1. So this is kind of how arrays work in Gdevelop. An array counts from, let's go to the animations here actually, for trigger. So in the animation tree, we can see that number 0, because we always in programming, we start with 0. 0 is a number, and then 1, 2, 3. It's like kind of the absence of a number, but it still is a slot. So if we were to think about this as an array, this would be animation 0, animation 1. But if we were thinking about it as a structure, structures can have names for their objects. So instead of being 0, the name is now turn right. And the other one is turn left. At the moment, Riley, we're just talking about how objects function in Gdevelop. So self-governance, talking about how variables and how each individual object is in control of itself in Gdevelop. And so effectively, we've created a structure here and an array at the same time. If I went into the variables and created a structure, let me show you an array and a structure. So imagine that our animation, this is animation, right? And we're going to name this other one animation 2, but really pretend like these are this here. Animation 0, animation 1. If it was an array, it looks like this. Animation 0, right? So animation 0 is equal to whatever the animation's called. And in this case, it's kind of 0, but it does have a name. And the name would be like turn left, right? And then this one's turn right. So this is important because although this is what animation we're pulling in an array, this number represents the very first location. And in a structure, it looks a little bit differently. It looks like this. And instead of having 0 be us targeting 0, we're targeting turn left, and that has a value, which also equals turn left, effectively. So we're naming it. And what's nice about this is we can kind of like move it around. So no matter what, if we were to create an object and the animation was 0 and 1, and I added a new one, right? And I move this one up, 0 is always the first slot. But if I use a structure, I can target a value, and the value is the title of the animation. A lot of information there, but it is relevant to how everything else works. So variables in Gdevelop work exactly the same way. So now let me put this into practical use. What does all this information mean, Alex? Like how do I use that in my situation? Okay, so we're going to move our enemy left and right, but we're going to do it based on their current state. And for those that don't know how to do this, we're going to be using external events, which are event sheets that we can tie together to make our code work. Now, it's really important for new people to know that Gdevelop works reading top down. So that means whatever's below the information on the tree is getting read last, which means it's the thing that you're going to see. So if you have code that's breaking and you're seeing something like overwrite itself, it's because somewhere up here you made a statement, and then down here later in your script it was overwritten by the last statement you made. And the way that these scripts read is when you add a box from people who are programmers, this is an if statement. Suddenly, by adding this one box, we're checking if something is true. So anytime you see this box, and if you're a programmer, this means if. So if, what are our conditions? And each condition is actually asking if it's true, right? If this is true. So what are we asking? Well, in this case, we have a requirement. Our enemy player, or our enemy, right, has a variable, and it has a variable of state. If the state is set to patrol, right, then now this is true. This must be true for anything underneath it to be read, which means if we duplicate this and call this one chase, if this value does not equal chase for the object, it cannot use any of the script underneath it. This must be true. So we're asking if this is true, do this. If this statement is real, do this. If it exists, if it's possible, do this. So I like to use external events for this. So if I was going to make an enemy, just to keep it nice and clean, I would go, okay, this is going to be my enemy state. And inside of that, we're going to link it again to our main scene. And we're just going to copy these out. Okay, we're going to keep it simple because I don't want to overcomplicate how this works. So because this is a game scene, it's both an external layout and an external scene. It's a scripting scene, right? Or like an event script. So we have the layout and the events. And all a scene is both of these combined. But we can add more events together to make a cohesive script. So again, reading from top down, we need to include it in the original script. Of course, right? Right click. We're going to link an external event. And now the enemy state script is being read 60 times a second. So it's including this no matter what. There's no condition for it. If this is more of like, just include this. And so at the same time that this is running now, it's triggering this to always run too. So they're running in parallel. All right. So currently our object for patrol is where we want the logic for our patrolling. And it's pretty straightforward, right? So in this case, so this must be true before this can be true. So this is true. When this is true, we want it to do something. We don't want this to be a trigger once, because if it's trigger once, it'll only happen for one of the objects, not all of them. Because it counts when you say, do this for all of them, like do it. If they do not return that value one time as true, it ignores it straight up. Like it just passes over it. It doesn't know what to do with it. So, or it'll overwrite itself depending on who you write it. So now all of our patrol is going to go here. So what is the condition we need to check? In Gdevelop, you never want to repeat yourself. So the most important variable goes on the very top. This is it must happen, and it happens every time this happens. We're going to be checking for input. So when this is true, now we can control an object's input. And in this case, we aren't physically controlling the object, but we're still using the side scroller or a top-down, sorry, behavior. So now that it has it, we can now check what it's doing. So the first thing is if the object is not flipped, meaning, because we're going to add flipping, horizontal flipping, but automatically Gdevelop has some built-in stuff that it already knows that it's not flipped. So we can check a variable seeing if it's flipped. So we haven't flipped it yet. And here we're going to go horizontal flipped because we're moving left and right. And we're going to say is not inverted. Okay. So, or in this case is. So if the enemy player is horizontally flipped, well, that hasn't happened yet. So we're going to say no. I'm going to duplicate it and turn this one, well, back on. I didn't need to do it that way, but I did anyways. I'm a genius. So now we have two conditions. This must be true. And then these must now, either one of them can be true. This isn't an or statement. One of these needs to happen. These are very strict rules. So if this is true and this is true, without using an and statement, this is kind of the same thing. So if this is true and this is true, this is like the if else. Like, so if this is true and if this is true and or if this is true and so on. So if we're not flipped, then we're going to simulate moving to the right because that's the natural direction of Gdevelop. Your characters are all right facing at the beginning. So 0 is to the right. And then negatively, we're going to move to left. So now, if we're flipped, move right. Or if we're not flipped, move right. And if we are flipped, move left. So this is a very basic rudimentary idea. Well, currently, there's absolutely nothing stopping us from falling off the map. So if we are flipped, we need another condition. If we are flipped, go to the right. However, there's one thing we want to do. If I'm going to the right and I'm in collision with the trigger, so here we're going to go collision. We're going to check the collision between the enemy and the player. So in this case, you could do it. I should probably do it this way. You could do it either way technically, but syntax, it looks better this way. So if you're not flipped and the enemy is in collision with the trigger, and then this is a double and statement. So you could do and like this, but this is more like these two. It's like type scripting for those that know what type scripting is. It's kind of like restricting you're defining everything in a really strict way, so there's no like leaks or anything like that. But Gdevelop is very forgiving. It's like it's not a type strict language, and so because it is a compositional language. But anyways, so effectively what that means though is that we can add another declaration, but it already checks if these two are true. Like both of these must be true without an and statement. It just works that way. So if I go into here and then go into trigger, and this time we're going to be checking for an animation by name. I could do by number, but I might rearrange my animations. So instead I want to do it by name, right? So if the trigger by name is turn left, right? So that is our right one, and we're going to copy this and move it down this way because we're going to do the same thing, but instead we're going to do turn right. So these are our flips, okay? So in every time you indent, it's like these we do step downs, right? So these are on the same level. So we're seeing which has authority, whatever's true, and then we're going to do whatever it tells us to do. So now, okay, so we are not flipped. And then if we're moving right and then we do collide with the thing that should flip us around, we need to flip our character. So then we're going to go object enemy, flip. And now we're going to flip it horizontally. Activate flipping, yes. And then we're going to do the exact same thing. And we're going to do it right here. And then this one will be no. So then basically unflip and flip. So we should potentially see. I would probably want to do some level of like some extra checks because what's going to happen. Oh, no, it worked. Okay. Because there's acceleration and deacceleration, we need to accelerate them and then deaccelerate. So if you're sliding, if you have characters that are sliding, the way you fix that is by going into your object, going into your behavior, and then here we have a slower acceleration than we do deacceleration. Change those to the same, and now it'll be immediate because there's no speed going fast, and then there's no speed going slow. Like there's like a really low transition. And if you want it to be stronger, up the number. So like 1500 to 1500. It doesn't really matter what the like max speed is or anything else. Watch it again, and now it's going to be going so fast that because of the acceleration, deacceleration, we should see it bounce immediately. Now, it's reading multiple frames, and so it's triggering, and it's trying to move out, and we don't need a trigger once because it's endlessly patrolling, right? So that's its like major function. This guy is going to do that. Now what happens if I add another one? And it's also on patrol, right? What's going to happen? Let's take a look. This is without a for each statement, which a lot of you are probably scratching your head right now. If you use for each statements, the misnomer of about a for each statement is it's literally for each number of these instances, do this object, not target each of them and do this for each of them that this returns true on. But this is interesting, right? Because it's waiting for that collision. We've basically created a machine that knows specifically, because they're self-governing, they know when the individual touches that object. But now, if I did that and took patrol, right, and I changed it to something else, it would interrupt this entire process. And that's where we get, this is what we call finite state machines. We're controlling our character or enemies through looping logic that checks for what their brain is telling them to do, right? So now we want the player to move. So we're going to add the behavior for the player real quick. We're going to use the same top down. No allow diagonals. We'll do 1500 by 1500 just to keep, yeah. And then we'll make our player just a smidge faster than the bot. Now, we're not going to control any of our player state right now for this, because I'm going to use the default movement controls, which is just the arrow key. So now we want to check some conditions. While we're in the patrol state, we need to consider these sort of, like, there's a couple steps that we have to consider. And if I create a comment here, we need to kind of look at what I'm allowed to do in patrol state. And then we're also looking for how do I leave patrol, right? And so we need now, we have the basic commands. This is what you should be doing, right? However, we need to add another condition because we know that we want our enemy to chase us. So we're going to create another condition, and we're going to check if the player is within a certain distance. So if the player distance between two objects, and then we're going to be choosing the enemy. And this is a distance, we're going to say it's 200 pixels. Maybe even 1,000. No, because the distance, actually 720 is the okay, yeah, so 1280, 720. We'll do 350, yeah. Okay, so now, if the player is within this, we want to do something. We're going to, if the player is below this, we're going to snap out of patrol, and we're going to immediately change our character's condition. So we're going to do variable of the enemy, and we're going to change its state to chase. So now it's going to have chase brain. None of this code exists here. None of it. It does not, now that this guy enters chase, watch what happens. So I'm going to go back to this one. Watch what happens. If I get too close, this one's going to stop. That other one's going to keep going. Because they're self-governing. I only need to target the one. And now this one's close enough to me. It entered a state. And one of the ways that we can validate that is also, let's go ahead and stop this one. We're going to go to preview and debug. And if you already have a game open, it's okay. You don't have to shut it down. Go to your game, hit refresh, go to your enemy, and on each of them, you can see what their individual instance variable is telling you. It's literally telling you whether or not it's true. It's showing you what each object's status and variables are in the debugger. So coming back to here, we know that this is working. We need to repeat ourselves only because this code is not available anywhere else. So if the player now is below 350, we're going to move that object to a location. And so it's kind of hard because although we're using the top-down movement for this initial one, I'd only usually do that for platformers. Normally I wouldn't use the top-down movement in the same way. I would actually, for enemies, generally either use pathfinding or something similar, because it's easier to target a person's location. So if I add the top-down movement, which I can leave like this, we can still add the other behavior. We're going to add the tweening. Actually, tween is a very good way to do this, or pathfinding. And actually, I think I want to do pathfinding just because it's a little bit more advanced, but I think it's more valuable than tweening. So here we have the same sort of setup. What's the acceleration? It works absolutely the same sort of way as the top-down movement. So we can combine these two without interfering with it. So we're going to change our acceleration as well on the pathfinding. Because when we move left and right and doing the patrol, we're going to be using the standard movement. And then when it changes into chasing, we're going to use a sliding mechanic. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference. Like, the player won't be able to tell the difference. It just gives us another way of pursuing the player. So this is kind of interesting, because now what we're going to be doing is chasing this player up until a certain distance. So how do we chase the player? Now, if you're going to build line of sight, you can do an array. Like, you can send a laser to see if it touches this player, and then decide to patrol. Or you can, well, I mean, there's just so many ways to go about this. And what we're going to do, though, is use the enemy to target the player's last location. So let's say in this game, we want them to chase the player to the last known location. And then if they're still in the player's radius, keep moving to wherever the player's current position or last known position is. And this technique will also allow us later on to very easily add in obstacles that may hide our line of sight. And then the enemy will leave, come to here, decide that it can't find you anymore, and then go back to what it was supposed to be doing. Okay? So to do that, we're gonna take some variables and pass them to each enemy. We're gonna add another set of variables. In this case, I'm actually gonna make a structure, because this is a good way to learn them. Any opportunity I can to like exercise these variable usages in Gdevelop, I like to show it off. So in this case, we're gonna call this one position, right? POS position. And that means that we're gonna need some variables, and we're gonna need 4 of them. We want last X, last X, last Y, and then target X and target Y. And that's because what we're going to do is we're going to leave them all as numbers. And when we break away from our state into chase, we're going to remember where we were last. So to do that, we're going to save their variable, because again, objects are self-governing. So this is what's amazing about Gdevelop. Now we can check the enemy, and we can say, hey, for you, when this is true, we need to change the variable of the last X to your enemy. So object enemy itself. We're targeting itself, X. This way it knows it's going to save its last known X position and now its last known Y coordinate. And then we're going to change that here as well. Boom. So now we're going to do that first. It's going to save these and then go to chase. Now we can run both of these, because you need to declare it. Unfortunately, in Gdevelop, it doesn't work like if this, then that, unless you put it underneath it. It's literally, if this is true, only do this. If this doesn't return true, like if the player isn't, literally ignore it until it does return true. So all of these are really a bunch of true and false statements, even though they don't look like that. That's just kind of how Gdevelop works. So here, if this is true, do this. And then if this isn't true, then do this instead. So we want, if it is true, so we're going to focus first on this one. If it is true, we're going to set, and I'm going to copy these over. And instead of last known, we're going to change it to target. So target X and then target Y. Oops. And now we have a permanent way to keep track of who they're after or what they're chasing, and then and where that object is. And instead of setting it for the enemy, we're going to do it for the player. But this is going to be constant. So really, it's kind of just like chasing the actual player's location, which you could do, but later on, I might want to adjust this to make it a little bit more, like I said before, the wandering brain mechanic. And that just takes layers of adding in these subtle, like if this, then that statements. So in this case, in particularly, we're going to be passing the player through, and now we're saving that per each object. So immediately, these two objects should be saved. And once we do that, underneath this, just to keep it nice and clean, now that this is returning true, we're going to start moving in that direction. And we're going to do it immediately. So the enemy, and we're going to do pathfinding. So move to a position. The destination is not the player. It could be the player X, player Y, but we're doing the same thing. But instead, we're going to use those variables we created. So it's object. So you have to target the current object you have, then the variable that you're targeting. So in this case, target X, and then target Y. We're saying, hey, if you are this object, we want you to move using your own data. Target yourself, and then look for those variables inside of your object. So we're gonna hit OK. And then if I hit update, this is actually, oh, it did work. But we're gonna start it again because my player is like way too close. So let's move this. Okay, so now we can see that he's chasing me. It's chasing me. And eventually it will catch up to me and it'll kill me. I mean, you know, at least I'm scared of it. It won't actually hurt me, but you know. So it's overlapping with us. We could add some collision if we wanted to. And one of the things that we could do is outside of all of this in the enemy machine, at the very top, we're going to put the things that are always true. So if the enemy is in collision with the player, then we're going to separate. And we're going to separate the two objects. And the object is, the player. And the object that won't move is actually the player. Oh, I targeted, hold on. Move the player object away from the enemy. Move, what? No, hold on. Move object enemy away from the player. There we go. Yeah, very good. All right, had that backwards. So now it'll hit me, but then it's stuck. It's just going to keep pushing against me. And that way it doesn't clip or do anything crazy. But now we have this very clear. We're also going to add in this one. Now this one's kind of crazy because it's like only the enemy of enemy knows the enemy. You know, it's like, what? But this should actually also create it so that way when they smack each other. Oh, maybe not. Nope. That I would probably, on that one, that would be one where you need to do a, like for each enemy that's in collision with an enemy. One of the ways that you can get around doing that is by creating a group. And also, I just realized, no, it's fine. We can do it the other way, but I realized that I messed up. Actually, you should be able to do this just fine. So now if the enemy's in collision with the enemy, move away from the enemy, but it's going to be dependent on which enemy was touching who. There we go. Now they won't cluster, and we can move them around. Hey, what's going on, Henry? All right, so we got that to work. Now, we're going to come back here, enable this, and if this is happening, instead, we made it, we're above this, then we're going to move our character back back to the last known location. So enemy POS last X, last Y. So now, if I can make it, I don't know, eventually I will get away from it, but I just don't know. There it goes. Now it's going to go back to its last known location. And then we're going to just set its state. Where did I do that? Oh, right here. Oops, I just collapsed it. Wait, Alex, what are you doing? Oh, it's right here. All right. Then we're going to move it back to the patrol. And now, just like that, we have a fully functioning looping system between two variables, and we have ultimate control. So they're going to march back and forth, except for that. So we're going to move this into there. So the collision will only happen if they're chasing, because we don't want them to bump into each other. They're not lemmings. We want them to pass through each other. And then if I get close enough, it'll chase me. I'll run away. It'll go back. And then it should just immediately start patrolling again. There it is. Those are chase mechanics. That's how you do it. So hopefully you guys can see how this would be useful in pretty much every scenario where you're building like AI. I mean, it's like, this is the foundation to basic AI. This is how it works. Thanks, Parasol. I'm glad that you're learning something here. If you have any questions, this is the time for questions. So I just went through that little lecture. Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to give you guys a second. Woo! Hold on. I'm getting chased by a block. Yeah. Sorry. Got distracted. Is there any other mechanics you guys are interested in or need a better explanation of literally anything? I know that like it shows my Terraformers in development is like the thumbnail tag, but I'm actually here today to, well, I will be showing off some of that, but I'm actually here to help today. So if anybody has any questions, needs some help, that's what I'm here for. Let me know. I'm going to take a minute and get a drink of water. I'm just going to mute myself and look for chat. Let me know. You have the death system? Do like are you looking like are you asking me to implement death? Like a health system? Um again, you know, everyone takes for okay, yeah. So I mean, this is where we have rules that always exist, right? So when we're programming, we need to decide like what needs a trigger and what is um like where do they belong, right? Like where do we put the code? That really matters in Gdevelop. So we want them touching the player to always do this thing. We could control it. Like if you only want enemies to damage when they're attacking in an attack state, then that's where we put all of our code. But if we're looking for basic touch mechanics, there's a lot of different ways that we can manage health, and Gdevelop has a built-in extension that you don't even need to add. It's built right into it, and it's called health. But you know, it does add a lot of like, I'll show you here. We'll go to behavior, go to add behavior, and then we're just going to add health. Now, all this is actually is a bunch of variables like this. So if we had a player and we typed health and we set it to 100, and then we added another one called max health, and we set this one to 100, we would then have 100 health of our current health and 100 max health, so that basically we have full life. These names are the exact same thing as what's happening here. Starting health is actually your total life, right? Like what your current health, and then you have maximum health. There's nothing different that's happening here that you couldn't do right here. So first of all, you can do it 1,000 ways, right? However, this makes it very easy. So we're going to set this to, let's say, one life, no matter what, one life. There's some advanced options in here to do things like health regeneration, you know, dodge chance, right? Shield, like durability of your shield, how much shield you have. You know, there's just a bunch of variables that are doing the math for you. So but in this regard, we have 1 life. Because it's a variable, or because we're using the variable extension, we can now say, right, if the enemy is in collision with the player, this time, this is where we need to start considering for each object. But because we only have 1 life, like for each object that's touching the player, we need to individually trigger a point of damage. Now, if I just say, hey, kill the player, like do 1 point of damage, every second, or every frame of every second, so 60 a second, it'll be calculating all that damage like exponentially. And we don't need it to do that math. We only need it to apply 1. So we could do a trigger once here. But again, we need the trigger once to apply the damage. However, if we're navigating a bunch of enemies and we need to individually let them, we would need a for each enemy in collision, move the objects away from each other. And I would probably actually create this, like, I'll probably just do it for each object. And then we're going to pull this one out. We're going to say for each enemy, we want this to be a topical level. For each enemy instance that is in collision with the player, right? This time, even though we're not asking it to move them away, this one needs to target each of them. So this is the number. Repeat for each instance of object enemy. Repeat for each instance of object enemy if the object enemy is in collision with the player. So it's calculating the number of them. And then this is where we'd want to do that trigger once, so that each one individually only applies 1 damage for every one that reports true. It's taking a number of them and transferring it over to the player, right? Otherwise, this only happens whenever the statement returns true, but it's not thinking about individuals on a level basis, like a number basis. So now, on a number, count the number of them that are touching the player, apply damage. So we're going to now say, if we're in collision with the player is going to damage 1 point. And we're going to say no here, because we don't need shields, we don't need armor. It's not in that system. But there is nothing different to write this, as you can also say the player variable health subtract 1. This is saying the exact same thing. So in this case, we're going to delete it, and we're just going to use the extension, because the extension adds a really nice visual. So outside of the enemy state controller, we're going to go back to the main events, and we're just going to put our player events for now at the very top of this list. At any time in the game, anytime in the game, if the player is dead, which to them is the same thing, and I'll show you this. So if we did it the other way with the variable, you would say instead, if the variable, I should have clicked on the player first. So if we do player object variable, just to make it easy, and then we do health, and if we say it is less than or equal to 0, let's say that there was some like over damage, they hurt you more than you had life left, we just want to check if we're 0 or below. That is the same thing in terms of number. This is 0, this is 0. We're not going to duplicate them because it's literally the same thing again, but that is how you would do it. So if the object player is dead, we're just going to delete the player. Delete the object. Okay? And then we're going to, well, actually, I'll add some extra flair to that in a second. So first, okay, they're chasing me, and if they hit me, I'm dead. And so now we see, though, there's an error. Like, what if in the game, right, and the player dies, and the player can respawn, this enemy's now stuck. It's stuck in this condition because I'm gone. I'm missing. I got deleted, but now I can't be less than because I don't exist. Because there's no instance alive, you literally doesn't target it. So to fix that, in chase, right, we can also say, here, we can add an or statement. If the player instance is below, or the player is dead. Because this is enemy logic, so we're going to keep it here. So if either of these report true, then we can trigger this circumstance. And then now we can see if I die, we should see it goes right back to, hello? Did I miss something? If this is true and all of these are true. No, that's not quite right. Hold on, give me a second. My brain having a moment. Because I could simply, I might need a for each because we're now targeting multiple values. Anytime there's a number involved, we might, if I remember right, we need to do a for each instance. I think that would fix that issue in my head on a topical level. I'm just thinking about it. For each instance of enemy, not this. So for each instance of enemy, I'm gonna go backwards for a second. There we go. We're going to paste this again, and then we're just gonna move this up, and I'm gonna see if that made a difference. No, fine. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think about it actually. Hold on. No, never mind. I have a completely different method for this, and it wasn't even like in my come on in my head. We're in that world. There it is. Um, okay, so yeah, in the chase, right? I forgot. So even though if the player's dead, there's one thing that we can't do. We literally can't do this anymore because this becomes invalid. It's like it's a void statement. Yeah. So like you literally, it just can't happen. And one of the things that we can do though is check for one. I guess you could literally just say if the player's dead. Um, and the object is not in collision with the player, then we can also change it back to patrol. And we'll do it like that. That should work. If the player is dead, and the enemy destination reached, change to this. Why aren't you changing? This is where debugger comes in. I'm not crazy, right? It's stuck on. So it's stuck on chase. So if we're in chase and the player is dead, move. Wait for the movement to end. We'll say is not moving. So if the player is dead, we move to last position. If we're then not moving, move into patrol. There it goes. Yeah. Okay. There we go. I just had to think about that in my head. There's a few different ways we could do it. We could also say if the enemy object destination reach, that one should work too because we're using pathfinding, I believe. But we had to stage it in a step down because the condition first is the player's dead. Because this was the leading condition, it was interfering with like the overall structure. And because we were moving to the last known position, it's constantly going to where the player should be. So really, in patrol, when we go to chase, this obviously should only be in that distance, but when that was devalid, there's a few, yeah. And I'm trying to think about the optimization here and how I want to do it, but overall, I'm pretty content with that system. Huh. Wait a minute. Did you see that? It killed me, and then there it goes. Oh. Well, what if we also... I'm going to set it back to flip none. So we're going to go back to patrol, but then we're going to flip back to no. And I'm pretty sure... What's happening? What did I break? Wasn't it just working? Then I just have it working. Wait a minute. Last time I could have swore he was moving. Or it was moving. Not to like. Okay, maybe it's this. In the same way. Like this one is important. Hmm. It's entering the patrol state. What am I missing here? My brain today. Just like. Okay, so we went back. Oh, it's also because. Well, no. Wait a minute. It's still in chase. Okay, so it's not actually leave. So the destination, that's why. Okay. So destination reach isn't going to work because our destination, like, it's in moving to it, but it's still moving, kind of. Like, it's still trying to reach a perfect point, and the object that it was chasing doesn't exist anymore. So that was on me. It really should be isn't moving. Like, if it's not moving, go back to patrol. I think that's why it was working and then it wasn't. Yeah. Okay. Right. It's weird sometimes how that can be the deciding factor. You know, like the reality is with pathfinding, because technically that means that I'm doing my movement wrong. Like there's no way for it to find the path, set the path, go through all the like looping ways. This is just another way that you can do it, right? You don't have to necessarily follow this very rigid sort of path in Gdevelop. It's very forgiving, and that could be a blessing and a curse because it's deceptively simple but aggressively hard. um, so yeah, so that's the basic life mechanic system. And now as well, if I still run away far enough, it should completely come back to where it was. Right. Anything else? I'm here for you guys. Let me know. Um, let me move this over here so I can double check and make sure that everyone's where they need to be and I'm not missing any content on the interwebs. Trying to be present for our good friends out there in Reddit. Of course. I'm glad it helped, Henry. So while that's going on, I'm gonna go ahead and save this. I do need to actually work on a game jam project, so actually I think I'm gonna be working on that today. Um, yeah, let's let's see here. So the global game jam is going on, and I'm participating, but I'm not like actively participating in it. I guess like I'm still doing the game jam entry within the parameters of it. And it started like on the 20th, and we only have until the 26th, and I haven't put a single line of code in. So we're going to like literally start blowing through some of that content. So this is a great time for those that are interested in learning more about Gdevelop. If you're just like watching as I work, I will explain everything I'm doing. It's kind of natural, but if you have any questions, please ask. Don't hesitate. So the theme though is bubble, and it needs to be an endless runner. So those are the two main. I mean, the theme and the condition must be an endless runner. Did I just fart? No. Did you hear my chair move or something? What's up, Zero? Oh no, if I farted, you'd know. You lie. No. I'm going to watch this over so I can pause and stuff. But does the text variable thing also work with sprites? Yeah. Well, what do you mean with sprites? I mean, it is a sprite object, right? That's what we were using. It does. Well, yeah, yeah. But we were. I was. It is tragic. But no, I was using it to teach. We're talking about AI, and I was showing them how to do chase logic. But these are sprites, right? So when you what are your sprites fighting over exactly? I'm like pseudo listening to you type in the background because I just unmuted your stream, so you might hear a double echo. Oh, for sure. This is mostly just like a. Let me see here real quick. Let me pause. At least mute that. Let me get an idea here. What's going on? So I'll press the buttons, and they normally work, but sometimes I get confused what to work and what doesn't work. I'm gonna watch your stream real quick. You don't like show me what you're talking about. Like do it on your like I'm watching your screen now. So yeah. Okay. So okay. I'm trying to see what part is weird. I guess I'm not seeing it necessarily. Sideways. Oh, did it like rotate? Is that the problem? Like it's like rotating in place? Let me watch it one more time. Yeah. So it must be only under very particular circumstances that it's happening, and I'm just trying to see you recreate it, obviously. But I'm trying to figure out, is it the enemy that's doing the weird sprite thing? Or is it supposed to be the player? Oh, okay. Oh, like is there? Do you actually have a hurt animation? Is that what's happening? It's supposed to be playing the hurt animation, but then you're like pseudo walking sometimes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, let me. And okay. Yeah, yeah. Let me just review this real quick. So part of it is your timers. Like those timers are running, but waiting isn't like it does wait, but it's not like waiting and then to finish the script or anything like that. Or even it gives you like a little bit of buffer time between it doing stuff. But when those overlap, like frame by frame by frame, it ends up causing like quite a few things. But I think that when the number of the animation is greater than 4, okay, and you're in collision with a cat, of health, subtract 5, stop the player, removing all forces, blend mode, stop shaking, wait. Okay. Continue. Okay. I see, but I think it's actually like, I think it's like the stacking of stuff that you've had over time. You know, like each of these things sort of over time has been stacked on itself because of like the lack of state management. So it's kind of like they're trying to fight for control. It'd be, is it particularly the cat enemy that does this to you, or like finding out what enemy does it, right? When it happens, kind of gives us all a little bit of yeah, like a is it both? Okay. Hmm. So I think that part of it is like some of it is like trigger once material and other stuff isn't. So if the first time you collide with an enemy, I bet you it only happens that first time and then never again. Can we see it one more time? Let's see if it's the very first collision. And also that shouldn't be cat right there. Add to the permanent force to the player on underneath the wasp tab. That should be a wasp. It's cat.x you have in there. Go down. Oh, but the very first time you get hit, and probably by the B, is when it happens. Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, because it's supposed to stop the forces. It has to do with your timers. Like absolutely. Like it's part of your timer system. Like removing the timer and then like you could do like a timer trigger. So timer triggers are a little bit different. Like I use timer triggers a lot, like when I use hit stun or if I ever get hurt. So real quick before I move on here, guys, when you get hit by an enemy or something, you can add in again a hit timer. So let's say every time we collide with the player, right here when we do damage, what I'm gonna do is let me go ahead and mute that again. What ends up happening here is every time we hit the player, we're going to reduce their life by 1 damage. You could then start a timer and then use the scene timer of an object or the game scene. We're going to say game scene. We're going to say shake, right? We're going to shake the player. And then we're going to create another variable, and it can't be underneath it, but it can be in line with it. But because it's a timer, I always put it on the topical level. So the timer. So if we're in collision with the player, do damage, start the shake timer, and then we check the variable of the timer. So if the timer variable of the scene timer of shake is greater than equal to, let's say, 0.5 seconds, half a second, we're going to shake the player. So if the timer is greater than that, we're going to shake the player. Or in this case, literally, if it's greater than 0, and then let's see, we'll say that this one's 1 second. So we're gonna from 0 at the beginning of 0 all the way to 1 second. We can then shake something. So I can add the extension for shaking. In this case, oops, that's a scene. Let's see, shake. I think is a camera shake. Shake an object. There we go. So we can shake this object now. So we're gonna start the shake. Trigger. Player. Shake. Oh, I didn't add it to the player. Oops. Behavior shake. We're just gonna do position, angle, scale. Yeah. Interesting. I'm not sure what that property is. That's an interesting property. Sure. Whatever. Not sure. That looks broken to me. But we'll look at it. We'll do shake. Shake the angle scale of an object, the player. We're gonna shake for a total of, well, in this case, it's 1 second, right? Because that's the gap that we chose. We're gonna do it at a 5 by 5 pixels, 5, 5, and then the amount of time between shakes is like 0.08 or something. Okay. This normally it's like stop shaking, keep shaking until stopped, and in this case, we're gonna do no, because we're just gonna start shaking it. So for one whole second, when we enter 0, we should enter a shaking step. If I'm not dead. So we need to change the player's life value a little bit. Let's go into your health and do like 10 this time. Yep. and then effectively see I'm getting hit and I'm shaking. But now it's gonna endlessly shake my character, right? We're gonna have this jiggle forever until I got hit a bunch of times and I died. But so now we got the jiggle factor, and when we hit 1 second, we're going to stop the shake. And actually we're going to do yes. So we're going to keep shaking until stopped. And then over 1 second, we're actually now going to stop the shake. There's a few ways you could do this. This is probably not the most. So we're going to stop shaking all of it on the player. And then we're going to, rather than restart the timer, we're going to delete the timer. So down here, we're going to say timer delete the scene timer of shake. So every time this happens, we're going to shake until I stop shaking. And then after 1 second, I went, so we'll get hit again. I'm jiggling for 1 second and I stopped. Now I'm jiggling for 1 second and I stopped. So that's the right way to make things like timers, because rather than making your game code stop for a millisecond, it's only that one bracket. It doesn't apply to all the other code. It says do all this code, and then at the end of that, like at the wait timer, then deploy the wait, but it's only in that script. So the next time it reads it over 60 every second, right? Over one period of seconds, it's 60 frames. And so therefore you're saying skip for half a second worth of frames. So like 30 frames, and then continue working. And it's only stopping that one variable, not your entire script. Because literally Gdevelop reads these like kind of like all at the same time, but in top-down order from top to bottom. And each one is its own dependent trigger. So if you're triggering inside of here without the appropriate like time stops, that actually doesn't stop anything. So that's probably why you're having some of those shake issues. In my experience, like that's kind of what that looks like. This one we could also do like, let's say 0.5 duration, even though it's 1 second. And then if we went to 1, right, then we stop shaking and then delete it. But we could restart it as well. And then we'd have a loop of every time I get, it's just like an endlessly running clock. But to be efficient in Gdevelop, we want to stop the clock. We don't want it to just endlessly run in the background. Technically, after 1 second, this is a trigger once, technically, because after it'll only, this is like greater than or equal to, but this is like a one-time sort of situation. Even though there's not a trigger once, it's whenever this object is created, this is true until this is true. And when this equals true, basically delete this whole line. It doesn't exist anymore until a new one is created, then start it all over again. But if you endlessly keep it running, you're just like running a timer in the background, and that sort of stuff slowly bleeds your game to the point where you've got nothing, So all of that there. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to create a new project here. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, you kind of like literally like you gave it too many things to think about in like a way that it can't match up your timers because they're not like the right sort of timer. You did need a timer. You are correct. Like you had the right idea, but Gdevelop disguises some of what you need through the other variables. Just like they do have like their own very particular way. So what I'm gonna do here is create a new game. We're gonna do this one as the 2D platformer. You did have the spirit, yeah. No, you're like literally right on point. I don't think that you're wrong. We're gonna go into we're gonna do this. We're gonna call this one Super Bubble. And now I'm gonna get working on that little side project just for a little while, just while there's still, if anybody has any questions or anything, I'd absolutely love to answer those while I'm just kind of preparing here. So the animation sequence, it's kind of hard to see, but what I've drawn so far is we have this bubblegum character. Again, the jam is bubble is the title, and then the main mechanic is infinite runner. So I have this idea that we're going to do a vertical runner, like a wall runner, where you jump from side to side and create platforms, but your character is made out of like bubblegum, or like that's the whole theme is bubblegum. And so you're going to have like gum moves, like blowing bubbles to defend yourself, using bubbles as platforms, because like I just got to reuse the same gimmick, and it can't be very complicated. So I have the wall idle animation, or like the wall hold, and then we have the jump from the wall, which looks a little bit like that. And when you're in Gdevelop, of course, it's going to look a little bit different. And then we have the bouncing off of bubbles sort of mechanic. And then we're going to also add in dashing. So you're going to be able to jump, dash, and climb, like wall climbing and wall hanging. So really quickly, I'm going to kind of bust out. I just need to export these because you're never going to be standing still in this game. Like when you start, you literally start on the wall, right? Or you might, so I'm going to probably end up just for a minute using this sprite here. We're going to make this a length of 1, and then we're just going to put the base tile there. Okay. So here's the base tile. I'm going to start with that export. We're going to create a quick little folder system. So let's do export. Well, this one it could use selected, but we're going to export animation, animation 5, browse. Let's do, let's go to data, right click. We're going to do super bubble, and we're going to do like a source folder here. So 1 second, it's freaking out. The cat's being a grouch. And then we're going to do source. So we're going to put all of our our assets in here. So inside of our assets, we need it for our player. We're going to do that. And then this will be Super Bubble Girl idle. Effectively, that's going to be our idle script. So we're just going to do that. And I didn't need a sheet. I actually want it by frame. We're going to do that again. This is Super Bubble Girl. And it's going to be animation 5, technically. So let me rename this to idle. This one, that's the bat. This is wall. Wall hang. This one is leap, or like wall leap. So we'll do. And then we're going to do bounce. Okay. So now very quickly, I'm just going to export everything. Frames, animation. Let's redo that. File, export, animations, frames, wall hang. All right, go back to the beginning. Idle, wall hang, wall leap, and bounce. All right. So we're going to add our player character first. Go to our sprite objects. We're going to call this, normally do player. Yeah, I'm just going to do player just because it's convenient. And let's start by setting our animations. We're going to do our idle animation first. And we're just going to add that into, our project here. So player, all files, hello? Did it not save right? Oh, you know what? I'm a genius. Hold on, I'm pretty sure I just openly saved that to my desktop. Nice. Congratulations, you're a dummy. Let me go back to my desktop and grab all those. There we go. Pull that out and then move it back into my data folder here. All right, there we go. Now, back to our development, go back to our sprite, go back to our imports, data. All right, let's do idle. Idle. We'll do wall hang. Oops, put it in the wrong place. Add animation. We'll just do hang, and then wall hang. We're going to, we're just going to quickly add the rest of this, I guess. Go wall leap. 7 frames. That's good. That looks good. And then we'll do one more for, so this is leap and bounce. All right. All right. So once we get the base in here, I'm gonna move our resolution into something a bit more appropriate for the like genre that we're doing. We're gonna keep using the default. We're gonna use the default window size, so it gives us a widescreen game. But we're gonna confine our game into like pillars, like having 2 pillars in the middle. So for us to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and take 1 second. I'm gonna drop this down one, and then we're just gonna copy these 2. So we will add a new animation for my own convenience. We're gonna call this walls, and set it to 2. Take both of these, and then we're gonna export. Control Shift R. Nope. Export animation. Control Shift A. Do walls, and then we'll make sure this time we select the appropriate location, which would be data. And we'll decide save it in the walls there for now. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is do the collision object or wall object, and for that we just need 1. So I'm going to do, this is the collision, or we'll just do wall for now. It's got 2 animations. It's got the default wall 1 animation and then wall 2. So go to assets, we'll go to wall 0, and this will just be spike. Add another one. Default. Okay. I'm going to move those in order, default first, then spike wall, and then now I can just literally bring this in. We're going to change our grid to 16 by 16 because that's the tile size. And then literally I'm going to duplicate. And for actually, you know, in a lot of ways, I could have just used a tileable sprite and just keep it repeating as a tileable texture, which would keep down the sheer number of like walls and everything that I have. But because I do have alternate tiles, I kind of want to I want to leave them like this so I can just change one on the fly. Like this is now number 1, right? Here's another wall spike. So we can grab, let's say, these 3 in a row, and then hello, and then turn those all to like 1, right? Just to add some spikes and variation. So that's kind of why I did that. And then what we need to do is, yeah, add in the platforming behavior and the rest of the wall stuff. So I'm going to copy this out, rotate it, just so we have a floor at the very beginning of our game. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to hold Control and duplicate this all the way across. And there we go. We're going to start with the platforming logic. So we'll go into behaviors and platform. This will be the platformer character behavior. Platformer. Where is the character controller? There it is. Oop, that is not what I meant to add. Congratulations. You're an idiot. All right. 1 second. I didn't realize I was going to add so many things. All right, new sprite. Let's do the platform character. Default controls, we're going to turn that off. No grab tolerance, no jump through platforms right now. And then, oh, yeah, actually, we are going to do that, but that's okay. And then we're going to leave all the jumping alone for now. And if I just press play, the character would fall through the world because our walls also now need the platforming behavior. And just platform. So now it's just a platform, collision is in place, and we don't need any checks to see whether or not our game is or like we don't need any checks to see if there's like collision or anything. So the next thing I'm going to do is go into an old project. I got to pull this over to the left and find it real fast. Yeah, I think it's right here. Custom key bindings. No, hold on. What did I do with it? Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thanks you guys for stopping in. See a lot of people coming and going. If you guys got any questions, please ask. Please ask. Don't don't be too hesitant there. Okay. So I'm not sure what I did with it. We'll find it in a minute. I'm just digging around in my secondary monitor, so I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. Sorry, I'll bring it back in a second, I promise. Just got to figure out where I put all my data. Pixel art. We are looking for okay. I think what we're looking for is that's Super Toast World. No, we are looking for dude, what the heck? Boilerplate code? There we go. Oh, except for neither of them are the right one. Nice. Alex, what'd you do with this? I'm a dingus, I'm a dingus, I'm a dingus. I'm just trying to figure out. I have a whole okay, maybe it's still inside of itch. I think I put it on itch. I just don't remember if it's still up or if I need to re-upload it, which might be a good opportunity to do that as well. Recommend for you, library, my own stuff, please. Where are you? Found it. All right. Let me just download the document real quick. Alrighty. So I built an extension quite a while back for advanced wall climbing. And we're just going to go and import it. So we're going to go into the scene extensions here. We're going to go to extensions and then add the desktop advanced wall climb. And that's going to allow us to like literally like jump onto well, yeah, I mean, it's gonna build what we need. It's gonna build what we need. So let's think about this. Where? Let me think here. Still trying to figure out where I put it. Where did I put the other one? Like all the assets and everything. Where's lore? Where did lore go? I'm just gonna search for it. Sorry, guys. I could have swore that it was like right here though. I'm freaking out. This isn't it. It's got to be an H. No. Storage E. Yeah, please do. Like, come back anytime and give yourself a mental break for sure. For sure, for sure. This stuff can get really, really like overwhelming. It's hard to make games. Like we get this idea that we want to do it and we jump into it and we give it our all. And the reality is it's just immensely difficult. Like in concept, it sounds fun. But then later you're like, why did I do this to myself? Like literally why? You know? It's like I could have done anything different. It didn't have to be this. All right, let me get into my. There we go. Now we're cooking. All right. Let's see here. Asset packs, afterthought, folklore, sprites, UI, FX. Okay, we need to find the actual game projects now. YouTube, lore, sprites, tiles. Yeah, I'm really like, I don't even know where like, it's really actually like hurting my brain. I do not know, literally don't know what I did with all of that. I lost a lot of data recently, and I don't think I lost this one. Like, I thought this is one of the ones that I didn't lose, but maybe that is not the case. No, it's right there. Okay, good. Whoo! I was worried. That had me worried. Like, I was stressed. All right, good. No longer worrying. All right, let's move it to my desktop, and we are good to go. So, Gdevelop allows you to open a few copies of it. So I definitely recommend, do that. But it makes it really easy to be able to like transfer between your projects, right? And then also not just between the projects, but also lets you copy things between the projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some cheating. Not really. I'm allowed to do this. This is what boilerplate code is. We're going to be taking code from something else I've done that isn't particularly difficult. Developing a finite state machine. And so this is a project that I currently have that has, all of the player initializations in place, and all I can do is copy that out, put it in the other game, and then do some fine tuning, and it'll just work. But what we're going to be looking at here is this. So we're going to be adding this mechanic. This is something that we built quite a while ago. But you're going to have all the these movement controls in the game, and you're going to be trying to avoid dying. And if you die, it does this thing and brings you back. And there's a little bit of jankiness in the climbing. I'll be fixing that, of course, in the polish here, but we're really just trying to convey this over and make it more of like a vertical platformer. So this one's a little bit slower to me. We need to build it up. So to do that, we're going to start with some transfers of the external events. So I'm just going to open up this project and we'll start building some external events. Right click and copy it. And then I'm actually just going to move this one over so it's easier to copy and paste them. And now we'll paste that one in. Get rid of that other one. Oops. Didn't copy it right. Copy. Move. Copy. Jump. Fall. Dash. Particle. Climbing. Debugger as well. So now I move that all that over, I'm gonna have to go through and literally assign them now appropriately. So each one is gonna need to be assigned to the first room. And then when it comes to the player and everything else, so we need the health extension. So I can also directly copy a lot of these extensions right out of the other script as well, and make sure that I have the same versions and everything for that project. So I'm just gonna do that for gamepads and a few other of the hello extensions that I want. We're gonna want advanced jump. We're gonna want shadow clones. We're gonna want 3D flip. Get that health extension. Oops. Again, didn't want to do it. Let's try it again. There it goes. We're not going to need firing bullets. We'll do some camera shake as well, just to keep everything really consistent. Camera-based room movement is really important. So we're going to add that back to our game as well. Button states, that's more for menu stuff. We don't need that right now. And we don't need the toggling switches. I think I have everything I need for now. And then we're going to go through and update all of our stuff here. So player is usually what that's called. So we're just going to rename this player and go back in and make sure now, like, player's dead. I don't have the health thing connected to the player, so I need health and clones. So we're going to go and do that. Clone. Actually, that one, I don't know if that's how that works on that one. Shadow, I think is that. No. What's the other one? Shadow and oh, help. There we go. Add that to the player. Do 1. Okay, so we should have the basics set up there. Let's take a look. Delete all shadow clones by the name of shadow clone that are that are out to the player. Okay, so we're going to player and we're going to duplicate. We're going to call this one shadow clone. So it's looking for that sprite, and then it's gonna, that way we can like dash and do all of our other moves. Gonna comment that out. We need player state to be added to our player as a variable because we can't change states currently, right? So player state, and then this one will be currently initialized, init. For those that need some help in your finite state machine stuff, I will have a video coming out relatively soon. I do talk about it quite a bit, but yeah. So player state is all set. Each one of them, though, needs to be assigned. Reset, maximum, wall, jump, and climb. All right. We can, I forgot we renamed the extension, so I'm going to grab the original and pull it over. There we go. We'll get rid of this one for now. There we go. Okay. So we're going to need to add the wall climb, I believe, as well. Wall, jump, and climb. No default controls. Has to be moving toward climbable to climb. Automatically jump out from ledges when climbing upward. Turning that off. Point has to be inside climbable before that key press. Okay, up to climb upward. Down, we're going to W. Oh, lowercase. And then D for up and down. W and S, rather. C to start climbing. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and automatically climb. The name of the point of the climber to check is also climb. So now we need to add the point check collision in front of our player. And, oops, not that one. you're a genius. We're going to add climb. And that point for climb needs to be somewhere in front of our player. Just far enough out that we can grab the wall. We should be able to see that our player can move. Oh, I don't have any of my key bindings mapped. So now we can go to our global variables, and then inside of our globals, there's some things that we got to set up. I'm going to do it the cheating way, where I add a variable and then, oh, it's not going to let me do it. Interesting. I thought I could do it that way. Oh, there it goes. There we go. All right. And then we're going to do it with key bindings as well. And there we go. We have all of our key bindings set again. Up, down. D is dash. Okay. So we are actually using the arrow keys. So we're going to go back and change some of the things I just did a second ago. I got to make sure that all of our events are initialized properly. Got to go to, oops. Got to go to each of them and do that. So give me just a second. Here, do that. Player fall, do that. Dash. There we go. We'll manage our particles in a little bit. Yeah. Debug manager as well. Excellent. All right. Now we just got to go through and get it all tuned up. And that'll save me a bunch of time in this jam, because now I just need to tailor like the basic movements, and then I can expand on the actual game mechanics. So a player finite state machine isn't necessarily something that's like, yeah, just one of those things that, oh, it's actually in that state. Interesting. See, my player's not working because I need to do stuff like that. All right, get rid of that. Let's initialize our character to see if we can move. Can't yet, so we still got to set a few more things up. You know, like actually running the main event. That's hilarious. I added all this stuff and then I forgot about, you know, the actual main game scene event. So real quick, we're just going to do exactly that. I'm like, oh man, none of my code's working. Duh. There we go. We're not going to do the traps or the room manager. Go ahead and debug events, turn that off. Particle manager, turn that off. Camera settings, turn that off. Get rid of the physics. Flip the player. We will want that, so we're going to go to player, collisions. Oops, not collisions. Edit point, and we're going to move the origin of our character down to its feet. And that way, although it does move the player, when we go to add 3D flip now, so behavior, oops, add behavior 3D. We want that 3D flip. Maybe if I just add flip, it'll work better. Yeah, flip, 3D flip. Cool. 3D flip allows us to do this really cool Paper Mario like front and back thing. We now need to horizontal dash, tween, coyote time, wall jumping. Oh yeah, we got to add it all back. Okay. Right. Let's go to dash. So it's horizontal dash. We need coyote time. 0. I guess we could do 1. The floor doesn't count as air jumps. And what else do we need? Checkpoint X, checkpoint Y, tween, wall jumping, and climbing. I thought I just added, like, what? Add behavior, wall. Yeah, wall jump and climb. I already have that in. And then tween. And missing objects, pit, checkpoint, wall jumping and climbing. I have that right now. What are you talking about? Let's go take a look here in our actual climbing stuff to see if there's an issue there. So let's go to dash fall climb. Climb is, for one, not connected, so there's a problem, right? And then input wise, no, all that's working. So what now? Wall jumping and climbing. Interesting. I wonder if it's because I deleted the old one and then added the new one, but then the calls are all the same. So maybe let's try seeing if it like broke. We're just gonna remove the wall jump and climb, and then we're gonna re-add it. Okay. Oh boy. And then wall jumping and climbing. We do in fact have that. I don't know what your deal is. All right, give me a second. We're gonna open up our other one. Go back to our player. Objects player. And then behaviors. And okay. So we need to set variables. We need to do has jumped. We're going to set that to 0. Has dashed. Set that to 0. Checkpoint X, checkpoint Y. We'll add that for now too. That'll be important for a respawn. This game will have a different sort of has dashed, has what? Oh, had dashed, has dashed. There we go. Is climbing is there twice. One's capital, one's not. So that's some issue on my end. We're almost there. Yeah, sometimes they're like that. Endless runners can be a problem. Pit and checkpoint. Well, right now I don't really need either of those, so I'm gonna have to go through here. Get rid of pit. Change the time or the climb type. Press once to climb, automatic climb. Keep finding D. If climb type is, oh, it's actually set. I forgot about that. I had a main menu, I think, on this one. No? No. Or on the other one. Let's see here. Going backwards, did I have a main menu scene? I did. I did have a main menu scene. All right. All right. Yeah, that's working. So what the, hey. Oh, it even says that I'm missing it here on this other one. Interesting. Well, missing behaviors for the player object. Well, clearly not. So, okay, we're just gonna ignore that one then. Camera settings. The whole thing needs a stop, right? We don't need that. Player finite state machine. Let's just keep going through. Player stays idle, jump, fall, so on and so forth. That's good. At the beginning of the scene, initialize the player finite state machine. Enter the initialized state, and then go into idle. Okay, that's all good. So now we can go to idle. We're just gonna close them down as we don't need to look at them. If the animation isn't idle, go to idle. Has jump set to 0, has dash set to 0. Is on the floor. Keyboard inputs. All that's good. Dash. Okay, so we definitely have the variable states, but we don't have the animations in place. So move, we need to set the animation to move. Maybe that's part of the, no, I wouldn't imagine so. Like, I need to set the camera though. So let me go to my camera manager. It's like freaking out. At the very top of the game, instead of some of this other stuff, we're going to, let's first of all disable all of that. And then we're going to add a new. Hey, what's going on, Nick? Yeah, thanks for joining us, man. Got any questions? I'm here to help. We're just right now. I'm just kind of going through working on a little side project. I'm not working on my main game, Terraformers, but even though that's the icon, I'm helping out today. If anybody's got any questions or anything, I'm here for it. Let's see. We're also going to Michael, that's a great question. I think that one, welcome to Gdevelop. I think that Gdevelop's a great tool to use, especially in like prototyping and envisioning projects. I really enjoy it, and I've worked in. I do know a few programming languages, and I've worked in various capacities and Unity, Unreal, and Godot, and all of that, Game Maker, and I have to say that I do like Godot. It's a very robust engine. But recently, Gdevelop has added a new 3D. They use Jolt 3D now, which is also what Godot is, like the new default 3D canvas for Godot. So yeah, I mean, I would say that really, if you want to be, if you have the capacity to be an engineer, a programming engineer, then Godot makes sense because of long-term flexibility in what you can do in programming. Gdevelop does have that, but it isn't the sort of engine that it does on the topical level, like look really simple. But I would say that Gdevelop also has a huge hurdle to go through. But if you're more of like a creator, I would highly recommend Gdevelop, or someone who's like just getting into game development at large. Like if you don't have a lot of engineering skills, I think that Gdevelop has a great entry level like learning path. But I will say that there's significantly less tutorials out there. So Godot is nice because it's it's popular and a lot of people use it, and there's a lot of open source help. And then for other people not, and I'm a big fan of top down RTSs, things like Red Alert, and I mean literally everything. I could go on for ages about RTSs, StarCraft, tons, literally tons. But there's definitely a couple templates out there that helps you get started on that. But the actual like the mechanics to get started in Gdevelop, like they have so many built-in features and tooling that it makes it incredibly easy to like get some early prototyping done. So for me, I would definitely choose Gdevelop myself, but I've been here for a couple of years, and yeah, I will say though, it's deceptively difficult. It looks easy, but it's also hard. And that's just the nature of game development, right? But if you're looking to like get started and tinker around and see early results, I would say that you're going to see earlier results in Gdevelop, which sometimes can be the difference between like having the motivation to work on a game and not, right? The engine development, man. Oh, I appreciate that. Thanks, man. Yeah, definitely do. I mean, I'm around too all the time in Discord and everything to help people out and get them introduced. I'm really passionate about it. Like clearly, I make YouTube videos about it, but overall, yeah, just I dig it. I really do. I mean, I've got dyslexia, and so to me, it's an engine a game engine that sort of caters to some of my learning disabilities, and I'm an artist first, right? And so being able to work in an environment. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So there you go. Like for me, it made sense. Like Gdevelop is visually easier for me to understand and to look at, and it doesn't hurt my eyes because I can kind of control a lot of the layout and the structure and the coloring and everything that I could possibly want, while also maintaining a really user-friendly way, an organic way of reading programming. And if you're familiar with any programming languages, I would say that Gdevelop functions much like CSS or cascading styling sheets, the HTML, like the developmental side of it reading top down, and in the syntax structure is a lot more like, to me, it's really forgiving like Python, but at the same time, it reads very much like, yeah, like CSS. So, what we're gonna do is take our camera now, and we're gonna zoom in, not only zoom in, but we're going to center that on our player. So we're going to center on the player here on number 0, and that should at least get our camera in the right place. There we go. So we've got a little bit of, some offsetting going on here. I'm not sure what. Oh, actually, I do know why that is. That's funny. Okay. So what we're going to do now is go back to the shadow clone. It's really important that whatever we do for our player, we do the same thing for the shadow clone. And so that includes the origin point. So now we can see that when I jump and move around, we have that shadow. Pretty cool. We only really want it when we're like jumping and dashing. So that works out. Got a little bit of issues somewhere in the script for coming back out of dashing, and I'll fix that here in a minute. But we did see clearly it was working. So we can go through here and eventually I'll find out exactly where that malfunction happened. To be able to utilize some of the tools I just brought in, we're going to bring a new text group back, and we're going to call this one debug text. And we're going to add that to our game scene. I'm going to create a new layer, and we're going to call this layer UI. And what's really cool about Gdevelop in the way that cameras work, there's an infinite number of cameras in this box, the very initial box, right? And literally your whole viewport. There's just an infinite number of them. And we can define them simply by using a variable. And they do that already, right? So like out of the box, we just have to change the camera number. And so by default, base layer, we targeted the camera to now zoom in on the base layer to our player. But there's more layers, there's more cameras, and they're all on top of each other. So then the UI layer allows us to bring text, let's say here. And now, because this is still the game scene, this will never move. Because even if the camera is zooming in on my player, the screen, though, on the other layers hasn't changed, which makes it, like pretty easy to deal with, right? Because we're not, like, if I was to move this to the base layer and hit preview, I wouldn't even be able to see it because it's like actually in the game world up here at a coordinate that I can't even see. So instead of that, we're doing it this way. And then we're going to go back into our camera settings, and we're going to change each instance of text group, huh? All right. That makes sense. We don't need that actually. Camera room. We're going to turn back on some of our code here. We're not going to need this one. For now, I won't need that one. We're going to create a room object. And that'll keep our camera, rather than having to center on our player, we can focus on the player while also moving the camera around to like support that. So we're going to remove the player layer, the collision layer, the foreground, and the background, and just use base layer. And then so we're going to create a new sprite texture. And this is the, what was I supposed to name it? Room camera. All right. And then we're going to create the camera element. We're just going to use like this teal, blue, cyan sort of look. And then now I can bring this in. We're going to turn back on our grid just to make sure it's nice and snapped. And then I can drag this down and fill the entire map. Now, this would be on the base layer, and I'm going to do 0 as its Z order, and that'll keep it so that way it's always in the background. But now, if I was to, let's see here, actually, we're going to make a new layer. We're going to call this one camera, and remove that to the camera layer, go back to the game scene, and here we're going to get rid of that. So now we have a mechanic that allows us to like basically follow with a lerp speed. And I'm going to change the lerping to like 7.5, and then we'll do we'll leave the zoom order in place, And now we can see it's a little bit more like following our character as we jump. We want this sort of style because we're going to be doing the vertical jump, so we need to be able to see vertically. Now, we are doing widescreen, which doesn't give us a whole lot of room. So we're going to be adjusting our canvas to be 180 by 320, just to give us that vertical canvas that we were looking for. We're also, let's see, this is on the base layer. No, that's actually fine. We need that camera to move on the base layer. All right. And we'll do it on both layers. So we'll take base layer and the camera layer. And that'll just make sure that the world object stays with us. And I even think that 320 is probably too tall. We're going to need to come up with some sort of like, let's try 280. 256 probably, actually, now I'm thinking about it. It's like almost too wide still. So like 120, 124, 8, 256. There we go. That's a little bit better. Just kind of fine tuning it, right? We're just kind of building it to a point where we have. Okay. Yeah, okay, we're getting there. We are getting there. All right. Perfect. Okay. Let's move that up. It's working now. We're going to go find our text group stuff. Make sure that all of our debugger text and everything. Climb key. There we go. Ground events player moving. I, for some reason, had my climbing disabled. I'm not sure. Did I turn that ground event off? I don't think so. Let me go back into the player finance state machine here in a move and see what's going on. So no, we don't need climb like this anymore. Idle jump fall. Yeah. Right. Right. Okay. We do need that. If I want to be able to climb while I'm like moving. We can't climb at all in idle, which makes sense. Ground events, jump, fall, jump. Simulate the key for player climb. All right, so we need to add the variable for climbing because when I first wrote it, the script originally, we did not need. You didn't need to declare your variables in Gdevelop, but now you do. So this is like a bool. And then I need to find where is climbing is used inappropriately. So that's like is climbing. No results. Good. Is climbing. No. Didn't jump. Oh. Is climbing. Lowercase. Is climbing. No, that's uppercase. Okay, so not there. Let's try this again. Search. Ball. Is climbing. Nothing. Dash. Is climbing. Somewhere in here. We haven't messed up. There it is. The array variable. What? That's not even close to right. variable in general. Like, is climbing. It's not an array. It's a Boolean. I'm not sure what happened there. Whoa. Oh yeah, it's just changed. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Had a brain fart. Is climbing. That's where it is. It's there. Is climbing to true. Boom. Okay, he jumped on the wall there. I saw it. So now we're stuck in climbing and not climbing, so that's okay. I'm pretty sure I'm now getting stuck into somewhere in here. Don't need the particle thing right now. Maybe that's why this one was like turned off. Move. Dash. Climb. Okay, we can't jump or anything right now, but that's, I'll figure out that in a minute. I'm not too worried about that yet. What I need is my dang debugger to work. So let's figure that out. So debug group, text group. Okay, we're just gonna change this up a little bit. So debugger manager, hide debug group. There we go. Good, 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 good. Okay, so debug group. So now we just need to go to our game scene, create a new group. This is going to be debug group. Then we're going to add our debug text to it. And then debug text. Yeah, that should work. So now we're going to turn it on. It helps if I put it back on my game scene, or put it back in the right place in the game scene. We're going to go back to the UI layer, right? And then now I still can't see it. What did I do? Oh, no, that's on me actually, because I think I have to press this button. Yeah. Idle, dash, idle, move, jump. Okay, so we're getting in the jump. Hey, what's up, Blue? Now we're in fall. So we get stuck in jump and fall. So fall, climb. Climb key. First stream in ages indeed, buddy. Fall is players on the floor. That's why. Turn that off and fall. Now we're stuck in jump. That's better than being stuck in fall. Oh, still stuck in fall. Hey, what's up, Clark? Deontay? I want to, perhaps? I'm not sure if I said that right. Let's see here. Back into the fall script. Oops. Turn back on our debugger state. We're getting stuck in jump. So let's go back into our jump and let's take a gander here. So in jump, we don't really need fall in the jump state, to be honest. Like, it actually just kind of adds a whole nother debacle. And then we get to fall and we get stuck. Okay, so now we gotta go to fall. Okay, climbing, that makes sense. If we're climbing, we need to is on the floor. if the player's on the floor, that's it. Just do idle. There we go. There we go. Now we just need to get my wall climbing working again, and then we're back to it. I don't need a fall animation. I was originally going to fall, because okay, hold on, I gotta go back to jump real quick. I just noticed a bug. Falling is normally like to give me an animational change if I have an animation for fall. Like in my other game, there's an animation sequence for the player falling, and you need to add what you can do while falling, you know, under those particular circumstances. But for jump here, if we're on the floor, you literally can't get in. That's the problem is in jump, you can't get back to idle. Like, or like, you know, like you should go fall, jump to fall, and that's not working. So we need to go if the player's jumped. In this case, we're actually going to change jump to bounce. So if bounce is played. No, that won't work. Well, hold on. If the player is falling, go into the fall state. Like, it's literally that easy. I wrote this years ago, so coming back to some of my old script, even I get to go, oh, there we go. I've fine-tuned it, and now it works. Okay. So now we have all of our movement states back in. We can move, jump, fall, idle. Now it's time for us to get some of those sweet animations in. So one of the things I do want to do, like we've pretty much got all of our cool shadow clones working now. I think that looks really good. Now it's time for us to start working on some animation cleanup, and then just some like some of those basic mechanics. So for those that are joining us and like, what is he working on? I know my picture is for Terrafarmers, which I will show you guys here in a little bit, but I'm working on a game jam entry right now. And so I'm kind of in a dual state here. I'm teaching, I'm having a little bit of fun, showing off what I got, and then also working desperately on trying to get my game jam done. We're going to create a dash animation, and we're going to use this one. So Control Shift E. Wait, Control Shift R. Bubble, bat. No, we're going to go to here, go to our data, super bubble, assets, player, and then we're going to finally add a dash. Now, actually, I don't need to technically add this frame because it already exists in one of these. So to save myself some time, we're just actually going to go back into the project. Go ahead and close that part down. And we're going to go name a new thing in here as dash. So now we're going to have a dash sprite. And the sprite on that one is just going to be right out of this. Let's see. We're going to use... I kind of want to use like the feet forward. I think it looks really like cute. So let's try that out. We're going to jump and then dash. I think it's doing it. Yeah, it's doing it. I like that foot first. Like, it just kind of looks funny to me. So that's good. I want to zoom in a little bit more. I feel like it's too zoomed out. So let's do a max zoom of like 1.5 maybe. Just to give the game screen a bit more... Maybe we're going to do the minimum zoom too. Oh, that's like too far? Oh yeah, that's too far. 1.25. We'll just do... Well, I'll have to do it here too, huh? Let's do a smaller lerp. Let's do a lerp of 0.25. Now it's going to be really lazy, kind of slow following what we're doing. Oh, hey, what's up, Deontay? I think that's how you say your name. We are working on Um, I'm working on a project right now that is for the global game jam. I've only got a few days left to work on it, and I'm only getting started on it today, so I'm like really far behind. But I was here for answering questions and helping everybody out. I know, Blue. Sorry, I didn't see that. Blue, for some reason, your message like it was like not blacked out, but it looked all glitchy on my screen, and then finally it snapped back in, like re-rendered. So now I saw what you just said. Yeah, almost at 1,000, dude. Almost at 1,000. A year ago. It's crazy. I've only been here. I've been doing YouTube now for this last year. But yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. So we've got our basic player mechanics in. I think that it is a little weird. I didn't expect the. What if I'm just gonna set the max zoom back to 1? Is it really like? Yeah, I guess it doesn't zoom in and center the way I would have thought it did, which is fine, but still okay. So the min zoom then at that rate needs to be like 0.85 maybe, and then the max zoom's 1, just to give us some more like no, it just needs to be 1, like 1.125. That's 4, Alex. 1, 2, 4, 5. Yeah. Hmm. It just really doesn't want me to do anything else other than that. So yeah, but so in the game jam, the current format, or I guess the title is Bubble, and then the extra mechanic is Infinite Runner. So we're gonna do a vertical infinite runner about bubblegum, about a bubblegum person. So we're kind of just working through that right now, getting everything squared away. And then I've also got some project stuff to show off. I could probably open that actually in this one while I'm sitting here. Let's save this. Yeah, I'm gonna have to really think about. I'm gonna take a gander over here. What? I guess if we go back to our actual code here, 180 by 320 is 1080 by. So I guess this is kind of where we want to be. It's just a little bit more visual. We need to be able to see enough of the game. Yeah, it's like one of the hard parts when you're doing stuff like this, like making sure that the player can actually see what you're doing, like what's going on. This is one of those titles where it's going to be a little difficult. It's the nature of this, but I need to get a more mobile friendly view. I need to make sure it looks really good on mobile. But so far so good. I think part of it is we're going to need to further shrink down. Hello? There we go. The game world a little bit, like even pretty dramatically. Just at least for now, so I can make sure that we have the general setup that we need. So we're going to thin this out. All right. We're going to zoom the camera just a smidge. Yeah. Border buffer. Not sure. I have to look at this. Each side of the room. 16 pixels, right? And then 20, 75, like 70, 80, 16, 90. Yeah. I don't know what I'm thinking in my head. And then just trying to do math. Oop, it's my Canva. thinking in my head, like, what might be the best format. I'm hesitant to do 160 just because it might. Yeah, I'm a little worried that. Oh, see, that might actually help now that I'm thinking about it. So by doing the border, we added some padding, and we can even drop that down to 8. And then I think we can zoom in. Like, that should allow us to zoom in a little bit. Yeah. All right. Hey, look at that. This is going to be really important because the whole point now is we need to be able to, like, very easily go back and forth and back and forth. So and this one's really is like a interesting. Interesting. Okay. Got a little bit more issues with the jump to move. We should never go to move from jump. Good. And then we need to change the has jumped in the false state. What are external events used for? That's a great question. External events are, so when you go to create a game scene, for example, you have your untitled game scene, right? And this is what you get to see. This is a external layout, and this is an external event, but they're merged into one, and it's called a scene. So an external event is when this is what an external event looks like on paper. You create an external event, and then when you go to it, you can put new code inside that event group, like inside of the event. And so this allows us to keep our code isolated and relatively easy to, like, find errors and, like, how to troubleshoot on our own. And so we use an external, we just move whatever code we have. So this is actually my blank game scene event sheet. And then we have a couple of them. We just go to whatever their code is and it processes it. So Gdevelop reads code from the top down every 60 times a second from top down. So whatever's underneath this, like down here, will be run last, which means it'll be the thing you see first. Because these things, like, trigger, right? And it goes straight down from top to bottom. And then let's say you had, if I press D to move right, and then down here you say, if I press D, move left, you'll never move right. You'll only go left, because every time it reads it, it's overwritten by the things underneath it. So Gdevelop has a very particular way of formatting, so that way you can, yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. Like, what I'm going to do here is also change this. At the beginning of the scene, we're going to paste that into it. And then we're going to go to our global variable real fast, and we're going to name it to auto. Perfect. Cool. So that should work better there. Let's go ahead and set that. Now I should hopefully be able to do some climbing. Nope, not yet. Almost there. All right. Let's see here. Going back into our finite state machine, we're going to want to simulate the climb key. Whenever jump is pressed, when player state is climb, we haven't even entered the climb state, actually. Like, not once. Well, are you trying, do you want to do like an MMO or something? Is that why you want to use Photon? Technically, you can use Photon, but not out of the box. Like, there is some work to be done for that to happen, but yes. What would possess you to want to do Photon? Oh, well, Gdevelop has built-in multiplayer. You don't need to code any multiplayer. It's just built into Gdevelop. I mean, you have to add like the appropriate programming, but you don't need to like stress about adding an engine to manage it for you or a plugin. It quite literally just works. I mean, it is a lobby based system, but there are other multiplayer extensions like THNK and other things like that, which allow you to use relay servers or um, uh, broker servers. So that way you can do things like Among Us, where you have like a social ID that you join, like a lobby system like that, or um, it is pretty difficult to just like straight up do like an MMO, I guess, but it depends on how many people you want in your game. If it is limited to like, let's say, 4, 8 players, anything like that, not a problem. 32, 128, like you could. I mean, there's Gdevelop has some limitations, of course, but overall, it is entirely possible. It just depends on what you want to do. You know, we're going to It would, yeah. It sort of does, but you're gonna have to pay for that through Photon. Um, in terms of other Gdevelop stuff, let's see. I'm just trying to think in my head. Um, hmm. Hey man, thanks. No problem, no problem. I appreciate you stopping in. I'm not gonna be on for too much longer here, just because it was just kind of jumping on to see if anybody needed help. But I do appreciate you stopping in, and I appreciate the sub. Really do. Thank you so much. If you've got any more questions, add me on Discord. We have a Discord group, and links in the bio if anybody wants to join the group and get to know the other people that are that. It's not the Gdevelop forums, of course. We have my own section, but if you don't get the help that you're looking for in the Gdevelop community, you're more than welcome to come and ask us questions on Discord. That's what we're here for. So if the climbing key is pressed, simulate the climb key. Like, so back into here, find out what the heck. I just realized oh, I'm dumb. I hadn't added the climbing behavior climbable, so that had nothing for me to actually grab onto. There we go. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. All right. Okay. So we've got dashing done, climbing done. Don't need the pit anymore. Jump, fall, climb. For the climb animation, we're going to change it to the same one as dash. Just so it does look a little bit more like we're climbing. I can't jump while we're climbing, so that might be one of my settings that I have to tinker with here. Behavior. I guess air jumps, maybe one. Let me look up my actual. Let's see. Floor events. go to our player character real fast. On the other side, and we'll do 0.2, number 0, 0, 1, 1, horizontal dash. We need to fix up. Give it some initial speed of 600 to sustainable speed at 1,000. We're gonna do platformer object. We're gonna do 650 for falling. Jump speed is 300. We're gonna sustain over 2. We're gonna do the max 50 on slopes is 200. And then let's see. Up, down. Let's do up, down. We're gonna do left shift this time as our climb key. Automatic climber. Let's do climb speed is 35. Max climb duration is 5. And 125 is our, 125 is our jump. Let's take a look. Okay. Definitely not jumping the yeah, having a hard time jumping off that wall there, buddy. So we got to go back to climb, I want to say. So let's go back here and do this. Let's make sure that we're in the climb state. We are. Now we can go and know that we're in climb, so we can now address it. Take a look at our jump script here. We're going to definitely need to yeah, okay. We should see our character fall, which is going to be part of our but I'm not getting the jump off of the platform that I'm expecting. So I'm going to have to take a look real quick at my other one. So this is the game that I built before called Lore. That is okay, so what the heck? On floor. Go back to our climb script here and see what's going on. Right, so if any of the ups are done, that works. On floor. And yeah, and honestly too, this does need to be a trigger once. Jump, dash, idle. Ooh, false is climbing. Is climbing. That's fine. I fixed both of those. So what then? Jump maybe? Or is there something else I'm missing here? Maybe it's my jump like settings. Let's take a look. Jump speed. I think I might need to genuinely up my jump speed. So let's go back to our game here. Go to jump speed. I'm gonna do like another. I'm just gonna do 600 to see if that plays a part in any of this. We don't need to do any of that. Should just work. Yeah, I can't. What's happening? So I'm jumping, but I'm actually not getting away from the wall. So let's turn on my automatic jump away from wall mechanic and see if that works. We'll just do -1. Okay, so it's because we're trying to jump off the wall. Like if I press jump, our little catcher here isn't grabbing it. So jump, climb. Um, we don't need that because we're automatically doing it. Then we need to go to our, so let's jump, right? So if we're jumping, we're just gonna not do that. And we also don't need that. We can literally just set it to jump. Like as soon as you come in, jump once. There we go. So now we're letting go of the wall at least. But I kind of feel like I'm letting go, you know, and not like jumping. So jump on the wall. And in this case, we're just going to say if is climbing is false and the player is climbing, which does require this one. But the problem with that is it only checks um, like it should allow me there. So if I press up, it will. Oh, I see. I see. I see. I see. I see. Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. I kind of feel dumb now. Right. Okay. Oh shit. All right. So then when we jump and we're wall climbing, um, I'm actually going to apply. Okay, so if we press the jump key, we're going to jump, right? And that's going to put us into the jump variable. But at the very in jump, instead, at the very top, not only we're gonna check when we're jumping. And so in climb, let me think about this. We're gonna press the jump key, trigger it once, and so go into jump. In jump, we're gonna do a simulated check for or when we jump, if our player is flipped. So we're going to go is not flipped, so facing to the right, which is the on the left side, and then we have is flipped, right, which is the opposite direction. So if the player is flipped, not only are we going to jump, let's see. In my head right now, what I'm contemplating is that when I jump from the wall, I want it to jump with a direction. Otherwise, you can't jump. Like I don't want you to just like. But I'm also kind of on the mindset is if you press left, it auto jumps to the left. If you press right, it auto, like on the wall, and that way people don't have to press space because we're trying to make a mobile game with like really limited interaction, like really limited button pressing. It's supposed to be very straightforward. So I'm thinking that if we are climbing and we press left or right, we actually, like rather than up and down, we're going to add a left and right. So let's do this. If we're going to move it down. Okay. If the frame is, we'll go left first. So left is pressed. We're going to simulate this will be a simulated movement instead, right? So simulate, we're going to do simulate left press, or actually right press. So if you're on the left wall, no. No, I'm thinking too hard because we're not doing the, hold on, right. No. Hold on. My brain is having a minute here. I think I'm just trying to think of the many different ways I can navigate through this, and there's no like wrong answer. There's just an optimized answer, and my brain right now is struggling with the optimized answer. This needs to be keyboard down, keyboard right. So if we're going to the right, then we need to go right. And we're going to simulate right, but then we're also going to simulate up and then change to jumping. Let's see if that'll work. So go to the right. It's going to press right, up, right, and jump. Because when we jump on the wall, we want okay. Well, we definitely don't need that one twice. I guess I don't know why I never did like left and right. I guess I don't. It doesn't even matter. Like because in jump, right? Now I'm thinking about it because climb doesn't really matter because it's actually jump that does. Because in jump, when we're in the air, jump. I mean, I guess this does make sense. Like, if the player is not climbing, and then they are climbing, do that, and then if one of these conditions is true, simulate the credit. No, we don't need that at all. It should just be this. But then that's gonna mess up the. Hello? The heck? Did I forget to change something here? Up, down, up and down. That's weird. It's like saving. Oh, that's why. It's because I forgot to flipped and unflipped. Oh my lordy. I'm sitting here this whole time like, why is that literally not working? Like, it's driving me nuts. Okay. I'm stuck in jump. Okay, let's see. Actually jump, fool. So simulate. So jump. Simulate. Jump key press player. Okay, so I think I'm still. I'm. Notice that there's not a slide. Like my normal slide isn't there. Something's not quite right. Okay. Okay. We do need a climb, but it's literally. Yeah, we don't need the other part. Because climbing is automatic, so. So if you just press jump. Okay. So now we're falling. And because I'm like stuck in the wall, there's no outlet for fall, so we need a just like all the other ones. Like what? So jump and fall have the same one, right? Oh. We kind of do it like this maybe for now. Now it's going straight into fall now. Okay, that makes sense. Because I suppose it wants the climb key for falling, but we have it automatically set, so that shouldn't be necessary at all. But it seems like it is for some reason. What is that about? Check this out again. Oh, it's because it's disabled as well. I think that this one does actually need to exist for some reason. Yeah, so it counts like... Okay, so I'm going to end up automating, I think, dashes overall. Okay. Well, friends, that's going to be it for me today. I just wanted to hang out and be available for anybody who had any comments or questions. Thank you guys so much for stopping in. I'm working on quite a few other things, so this is just kind of a side video. Yeah, just supplemental until I get the next video out, which will be a little bit of a short video on finite state machines, as well as another video for part 3 of the TMNT Brawler. And then I do have a 1,000 subscriber special coming as well. So looking forward to all that. So thank you guys so much for stopping in. If you got any comments, questions, do please message me, get a hold of me on Discord or through YouTube. So thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, happy game making, and I'll see you in the next video.